right, guys, welcome back. We are here with another episode of the Guts and Grind podcast. Welcoming my co-host, Saj and Abraham. I'm Siju Koshi. What's up, Saj?
What's up, man? How's it going, dude?
Dude, hanging in there, man. I'm really enjoying these interviews, man. It's just like,
Yeah.
some of these folks, we know and we personally know, but, we find new things out of these guys. And I'm like, wow. You did that. I wouldn't
Yeah.
even known. And it's been really good, like, to kind of get these experiences,
Right. I agree, man. I'm loving it, dude, because it's like you said, like people like socially or whatever, but you never knew that they dove this deep into real estate, something that you're involved in as well. And it's like you learn so much from these people. And that's what I love about this, like trying to build a community around the things that we enjoy, continue to grow and learn. So I'm loving it, man. Like seasons 1 and 2 are great. You and me just talking about our experiences, but the season 3 of like bringing in new people and getting their experiences and their stories, like it's awesome. It's really fun.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you and I kind of align and we know what each other do, but I think the people will love other people's stories. And I think people thrive off of that, right? Like, I mean, seeing new faces, new experiences, also just different coming from different stages of life, right? I mean, that's also important, right? I mean, some may be newbie investors, some are experienced, multi-million dollar investors, right? It's just good to get perspective from different people.
Totally agree, man. Totally agree.
Yeah, but this week, we have Vo, super fun guy. I mean, he's kind of all over the place with his businesses. He's not just in real estate, he's a DJ, he has a taco truck. So I mean, just awesome stuff this week, and just kind of shows the power of real estate from a perspective of once you've grown, you can expand to other sides of businesses, right? Other things that you want to do. Like if you wanted to focus on a dog shop, I don't know, whatever, right? I mean, it gives you opportunity, right? And I think that's what it kind of highlights this week. I don't know. What'd you think?
No, I totally agree. Like, so that's always in the back of my mind, like this financial freedom or time freedom that you get through real estate. But I feel like this episode kind of paints the picture in real life because, like, although I say that stuff, I'm in real estate, I invest and do all that kind of stuff. I still have my 9-to-5 job. So it's not like I have my time freedom back. I'm just building some wealth for the family and stuff like that for future Sajin, right? Vo, on the other hand, one of the highlights for me was the creativity on his first few deals of like, how did you finance these deals? Like, that's all. It was so cool. That was one thing. But then also taking the leap of saying, hey, I'm getting my time back. I built a system. I'm going to get my time back and try different passions that I'm into. Like you said, the food truck, he's an entrepreneur in that food industry. He's a DJ. He's got that tech company with the DJ stuff. So like, it gave him the ability to do those things and also to be there for his family and things like that. So it's a great episode. I think you're really going to enjoy it.
Yeah, he quit his job. I mean, I think he just said, hey, I'm done with corporate, and just, and this was before he built everything. So really cool story. Excited to get there. So here we go. Take a look at it.
You're listening to Guts and Grind with Siju and Sajin, making the real estate journey accessible to anyone.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Guts and Grind podcast. We're here with Vo. So quick question, how are you doing and how did you get onto this podcast?
Well, I'm good. I'm doing good. I appreciate you guys inviting me to talk about my life.
No, we really appreciate you jumping on, man. Really, we want to find out, how did you kind of start out, like, career-wise, and how did you kind of get into the real estate space, right? Like, this podcast is all about real estate investing. If you don't mind sharing, like, what was your original career and then kind of how that segued into the real estate world?
Sure. So I got a minor in real estate in college, and just the real estate classes, there was one professor in particular, John Bain. He was the director of the real estate department, just a crazy, wild guy. You always had that one teacher or professor that like kind of changes your life. That was him. And the first day of class, he showed us a check for $10,000. And that got me.
That's awesome.
I was like, I want to do what he's doing.
Yeah.
And basically, it was just, he was right. The only true way to get financial independence is rental properties.
Not to interrupt you, but it's kind of interesting how when you're in real estate, you're more willing to share numbers. Like for him to actually show a check, like, hey, I just, banked $10,000. Like you wouldn't do that if you had a 9-to-5 job, but hey, look at my paycheck that I got this month. You know what I mean? Like, but it gives encouragement. Like for you, it triggered you to be like, I want to do that. Like I'm physically seeing someone I know doing something that I'm able to do as well and make good money. Like I think it's awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was definitely motivating. And it's a little gratifying too, because you kind of want instant return. But that's not how it is in real estate, though. There's
Right.
no instant gratification. It's a real long-term strategy, right? Especially when you're buying and holding.
What did you do? What did you actually do, come out of school with? A real estate degree, or you said that was like a minor, or did you actually?
I got a finance degree.
Oh, finance degree. Okay, so
I
you're
actually went into insurance, into corporate right after college for about, I don't know, 7, 8 years.
yeah. So I mean, you're kind of in the real estate space still, right? Like insurance, all that kind of. I mean, I'm sure it's probably broader than just real estate, but do you have that aspect of it? Going back to the professor, I mean, he basically had the Instagram effect on you, right? Like he flashed that check, right, in real life. Whereas what a lot of people do today, right, and kind of get you into that, but want to figure out, hey, how did he get that? Did he explain how he even got that check by chance?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, his class would get so full that people would just come and sit down. They're not even registered.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
They would just stand in his class because he has so many ideas and experience that, I mean, again, it's changed my life. And it was, I mean, I'm just joking about the $10,000 check, but it was just a lot of things. I mean, a lot of things that he said and did. It wasn't book learning. It was more like real life. You can actually apply out there, you know what I'm saying, in the real world. But yeah, the interesting thing about real estate is there's so many ways to make money.
I didn't realize that there was a class for real estate, like a college course. I know that there was like companies that did it so you could like get your license and stuff, but I didn't know that you could like minor in it, in real estate. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point, because I don't know a lot of other universities that offer real estate classes. Although it ended up being a really expensive way to get a real estate license, because you can get the same ones from like Champion.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
For like, I don't know, a hundredth of the cost.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was great.
Where are you based out of when you went to college in Dallas or
North Texas and
North Texas? Okay.
The Eagles, baby.
How did you kind of dive into your first, I guess, throw at real estate? I mean, was it rentals? Was it single family? How did you kind of head your way into it?
Yeah, so I did actually buy a condo that I lived in Uptown Dallas for myself when I was still in corporate. And then, I wanted to get my feet wet. So I did actually buy a little house for like $28,000 the first. I just had to do like very minor repairs to it. It was in Fair Park, Fifth Ward in comparison to Houston. Yeah. So yeah.
Now 28,000 makes sense. I'm like, oh, that's a
yeah. I mean, honestly, it was a really good deal because the house was in relatively good condition. Foundation, roof, all that stuff was good. It just, all I had to do was take out the carpets. The funny thing about the older houses are, if you take out the carpet, there's actually hardwood floors, like nice hardwood floors. I think in some town in the 60s or early 70s, they were like, oh, carpet's better. Of course, everybody was getting high then too, but.
Bo, if you think 28,000 was a good deal back then, what do you think it is now?
Right.
Oh man, a good deal now. That's a really good question. A good deal now there would be like 75 to 80,000.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got my feet wet there, and after I got married, I decided, fuck corporate, I'm out. So again, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for my wife, for all the love and support. Thanks, honey.
You're a good man.
Let me ask you about the timeline. So you went to school, you had your first taste of real estate by that class that you took, and just to get the little itch, right? You got out of school, you went into corporate, you bought a place for yourself. So that's kind of like your own real estate. You're not renting it out, but it's like something you own. In the mix of that, you bought this $28,000 property in a hoodish area, hood adjacent. And so you got that turning. So going back to that, what was the drive to do that? Was it because of the class and you're like, hey, I know this is the way to build wealth, so I'm going to at least try my luck and see what happens? Like, did you use a realtor? Like, what did you do? Like, what did that first step look like for you?
Man, I don't know if we have enough time to really talk about all the details, because I will tell a long story. But to keep a long story short, I was DJing at bars in Uptown, and one of the managers and I, Mike, shout out to Mike Law, we hit it off real well, and he's a hustler, so he was like, oh yeah, man, I'm trying to pick up properties, kind of in the same wavelength.
Okay.
And so him and I just went driving around Fair Park, the neighborhoods, and looked for signs, like we buy houses or house for sale or whatever it may be. And yeah, we saw a sign outside the house. We called it and negotiated the deal. and just got it done. No realtor, nothing, nobody else
Wow.
involved. Within a year after I bought my condo. But yeah, the goal was to just build a portfolio. But then it was like 2008 hit, and just I got laid off, so I wasn't able to buy more properties. It was on hold. Real estate was on hold. I got married. Fast forward, and then I was like, I gotta do something. I didn't have a lot of money saved up at all. Credit was good. When you don't have a lot of capital, you really kind of what's the word? Make it enough. Yeah. I had to make it enough.
Right.
So yeah, I bought my first property for $11,000.
So you did the $28,000 one. You had that, and then there was a bit of a break, and then the next one was $11,000.
Yeah, so that was like a straight tear down. Like, I mean, if you look, there's no plumbing. It was a straight up trap house. I mean, it was it was a crack house. They had the screen doors to like push out the drugs and take the money, and then in the middle of the house there's a hole in the ground, so you lift up the carpet and you can just stuff whatever, because it's a pier and beam house. It was wild. I mean, just looking back, I'm just amazed that I was able to pull that off.
Let me ask, like, why would you see that house and say, I'm going to buy that and make that a like, was the surrounding area getting better? Like, what was the drive to say, you know what, I'm gonna go for it? Or was it just like, no, this is a good deal, this is all I could afford? Like what was the mindset of saying, yes, I'm going with this house?
The latter. I don't have a lot. I just gotta make it enough. I'm trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, basically, right? Again, when you're buying a house for that much, you're not gonna get a loan anywhere, because nobody's gonna give you a loan for a crack house to fix up with no experience. So yeah, I had to leverage my credit, and I was just putting everything on my credit card, and then man, somehow, some way, I got it to work. I renovated it, foundation, the whole 9 yards. The video is actually online. If you Google the York project, Singhal, not the best quality video, but you'll get the gist of it.
Let me ask you a question. So you said you bought the home using like credit cards, right? Like, did you ever have the fear that you didn't have enough money to fund the renovation piece of it? Because obviously it's in the dilapidated condition, right? So it's got to take probably more than 11,000, I assume, to kind of fix it, right? So like, how did you kind of frame your finances for that?
Well, first I want to say I still worry about not having enough money. That's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, going into it, I didn't have any contract. I mean, I had literally nothing lined up. Like, I was just like, hey, you know what? This is a low risk. It's $11,000. Worst case, I mean, it was pretty calculated if you think about it, because yeah, I mean, land value alone, even if I had to tear this house down, who the fuck cares? It's $11,000, right?
Right.
But yeah, I took the risk. I found a contractor willing to help me out, and man, like, there was so much trash that came out of that house. I couldn't afford a dumpster even, and so I had to run a U-Haul, and we loaded that thing up like 2 or 3 times and took it to the landfill ourselves. I mean, we have a hands-on experience.
Right.
You know what that really highlights, Silvo? Like, I mean, I think we talk about it a lot, is that the podcast, again, I always say it's called Guts and Grind, right? I mean, you literally find like the grind to, where there's the will, there's a way, right? Like, I mean, because a dumpster can run you whatever per, square footage of trash that they're going to pull out of there, right? And they'll charge you on weight and all this stuff. But, you guys went and said, hey, I'm going to go to U-Haul, rent a truck for, let's just say, $19 a day or whatever it is, right? And you can just, do the same thing, right? I mean, you're just hauling to the landfill anyway, so it may take a couple extra trips, but, like minimizing your costs, it really highlights, hey, if you get creative, you can get in on the game on the real estate side anywhere, right? I mean, you bought a piece of property on credit cards, I mean, like...
Right. Yeah.
I bought like 5 properries on credit cards.
Oh, wow, really? Golly.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's Visa is watching. You didn't hear any of this from me. But I mean, again, you gotta figure it out, right? When you got a will, like you said, you got a will, you're gonna find a way. And you get all these credit cards that have the promotionals. Like you do a 3% balance transfer, blah blah, 0% interest for 18 months. I was really leveraging that, and again, in hindsight, man, I saved a ton of money. Because you think about how much you're paying in closing costs and, just interest even alone, even if it's like a 4.5% interest rate, I was basically paying just a 3% interest rate one time. So, I mean, I saved a ton of money doing that as well, right? So, if again, you have to get creative. I mean, if you can't, I'm much more comfortable now, so I'm a little bit more like, okay, just I don't want the headache, just take care of it. But man, back then it was guts, it was grinds.
I love it, man, because it's even with money, we talk about this, right? Like it's so I think we've talked about in past episodes, like the last decade for us was, we had low interest rates, right? Like, so we can leverage loans and banks and things like that, right? So now the interest rates are not super high. They're higher, right? They're double what they were before, but it scares a lot of people from buying property and things like that. But but if you think outside of the box, right? Like things like, I'm not saying put a whole $300,000 house on a credit card, but but if it's like this is the creative aspect of it, right? If you can leverage money for 18 months at 0% on a credit card, right, and float it, and then find an ultimate long-term debt to cover it. I mean, that's creative. That's making it happen and making it work with what your means are. So that's really cool, man. I'm not saying it's pretty riskier than normal, but you've got comfortable off of it, and now you've kind of built off of that, right? That house is probably worth what now? It's probably over 100,000 easily.
I sold that house. I'm not trying to brag, but I sold that house last 6 months or 8 months ago for 225,000.
Wow, 11,000 to 200 something thousand.
225,000.
What was your all in on that though?
No, not that one. Shoot. Actually, I apologize. I still have that house, but it's worth 225,000.
Oh wow.
The house that I bought for 28,000, I just sold for 225,000.
Oh wow, dude, that's awesome.
But I mean, that whole area is gentrifying, man. I mean, it was kind of like the risk was relatively low because when you're on the ground level, there's only one way to go up.
Yeah. That makes sense. Let me ask, you buy it on credit card, you had 18 months to figure it out. Did you roll that into, like, refinance that into a traditional loan, or did you kill the payment? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, so I think you had asked a question about the construction as well. It ended up costing me about 20 or 21 grand to get it done. I was basically into it for about 35, and then I was renting it out for like 650, which is still not bad at all because I was still getting like a 28 to 30% ROI, which is unreal.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I obviously I paid the contractor for labor in cash, and then I leveraged credit cards for materials and all the other stuff. And I would just pay it off as much as I could every month. It's not like I'm paying the minimal. I'm trying to pay up as much as I can. So at the end of that 12 months, I'm not going to have the whole $35,000. Yeah. I'll have maybe, I don't know, 18,000, which is not bad. Then you roll that over to another one.
Oh, that's 0%. So you never played with the banks, like this scenario, you never played with the banks. You're just like, I'm gonna roll it to the next card, make that payment, take advantage of the low interest rate, roll it again. Like, how many times would you do that?
Oh, I did it like 5 or 6 times, man.
Oh wow, that's brilliant. That's a smart move. Like, to be able to, especially when the cost is so low. You're talking about you're all in. You have the house renovated, labor's done, materials are bought for 35,000. Like that makes sense, like that's awesome.
I did that about like 6 times.
That probably bought you about, I would say, let's just say each credit card is probably a year on a special interest rate or something like that, right? So it probably bought you like close to 5 years of 0% interest.
Yeah, and the important thing is, and a lot of people don't realize, you gotta leverage your credit. I mean, So even now, like I'm giving away a lot, but I still, call my credit cards up and like, hey, can you increase my line of credit? I'm not using it, but you never know when a deal makes that you're like, oh, I have, way too much cash put into another deal. I need to pull some money out because I can't let this deal get away. You got to always be thinking about like round circle.
That's so cool. Did you walk into it knowing that was the plan, or were you in it and then you said, oh snap, I'm running out of time, let me find another way to roll this over? Or like, did you walk into it knowing like, all right, I got this credit card?
That was the plan. That was the plan.
So from the beginning, you're like, all right, I'm going to float this, low interest rate, and then I'm going to find another low interest rate to roll into and eventually pay it off.
It's actually 0 interest rate, right? I mean, because it's only a one-time 3% transfer fee. Of course, my wife wasn't so excited about it at the time. Sure. But man, again, she was such a boss.
Since you're mentioning that, what did it take to get her on board? Like, what was the conversation? Did she like, because it's one thing to say, oh, I have a supportive wife, but like there had to have been some type of work done ahead of time to prep her for it. Like people have spouses that maybe won't be that comfortable. And like there's always a way, like there's always a way to make it work, but what are the things to do to make that person comfortable?
I mean, each person is different. My wife, she's a brilliant woman. She's actually really business savvy too. She may not think so. It took a while, man. It took a while to kind of explain and kind of get her on board. But I think she realized like, I'm not going back to corporate. So I'm going to do this. And she knows my personality is like, when I put my mind on something, that's it. I'm in it. She was a little reluctant, like, do you think you should just get a job too and do this on the side?
Right. But you kind of prove yourself because you said before you got married, you had your condo and you had that first property you had. That was just when you're single, right?
I was single, but I mean, going from having a corporate job and passively investing to full-time investing in what seems to be like a really high risk, low return environment, two completely different things, and any investor that's out there listening, you have one or two houses, it doesn't feel like you're getting a whole lot. It's going to be a struggle, but anything worth it is a struggle. After 5, you start seeing a little like breathing room. You're like, right, okay, all right, I'm seeing a little bit. After 10, that's when you can really start like making moves and you're like, okay, I'm here. Let's do this now.
The whole after 10 making moves is because you have equity in these 10 houses where you can pull it, like, or is it more of a confidence thing? Like what is that? Unpack that a little bit for me as far as like 10 is the marker where you feel you can make bigger moves.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of all of the above, right? Because by 10, you should be cash flowing pretty well. By 10, you've kind of proven the concept of what you're doing. You've got a lot of experience at this point, right? So, you have your finances in order, you have experiences, you have contractors. I mean, the game and you're comfortable with it at that time, right? Kind of like any business. We have some friends that own like 20 dental clinics that they built themselves from the ground up. And they did it in like the last 12, 13 years. And they're younger than me. Some people just get it. They find a formula, they perfect it, and then they can duplicate it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Once you scale to a certain level, right? Like obviously you've found the rhythm of it, right? And not just that, but the actual formula, right? That makes it work. Yeah. And then you also have, the risk is also minimized because you have more properties that can offset other ones that are probably not doing well, things like that, right? So with that said, though, like what's the portfolio look like? Are you still focusing on single family residents, or are you kind of changed like demographics, or are you still in the Dallas area? What's that look like?
So we're still, because the last 3-4 years has been tough because the interest rates were so low. It was a seller's market. Not a lot of like deals out there. Long term is definitely, we're going to continue to buy residential, right? Because again, that's the only true way to get financial independence. We kind of took a break 3-4 years ago because there was seller's market, and then we bought a food truck. So I was kind of busy with that, but we're still kind of passively picking up whatever deals that may come across that make sense.
And are you picking up deals? Is it on market, off market? You're going to wholesalers? Like what does that look like as far as like your funnel?
So, wholesalers, it sounds like it's going to be really equitable, but it's not. Because, especially like the more seasoned wholesalers, their margins are a lot lower. And initially it was wholesalers that I was getting the deals from. So, when you drive around and you see those signs like "we buy ugly houses" or whatever, I was calling them like, "Hey, put me on the list, put me on the list, put me on the list." Right. And so, I was able to pick up a lot of those houses in Fair Park because of those wholesalers. But as they build their investor portfolio, they have more and more investors to buy from. Instead of getting a house from them for 60 or a deal from them for 65 cents on the margin, you're getting it more for like 75 to 80, which there's no meat on there anymore, right? So you might as well just go, kind of look for the properties yourself, or, you find distressed sales, right? Like people that are just needing to get rid of a house.
I know you're in the Houston area right now, like you reside in the Houston area, and you were saying that these properties are in Dallas. Is it primarily still in Dallas? Are you in Houston as well? Like what markets are you in right now?
So we're still, predominantly in Dallas. One of my neighbors and I, my Tadow partner, we bought a house in Humble because he really wanted to kind of get into the real estate game too. But all of our stuff is in Dallas. We have a management company that handles all the day stuff
Oh,
because I'm
nice.
lazy.
No. I'm a huge advocate of property management now. I feel like it's just to grow, like to free up your mind so you could, worry about acquisitions, like let someone else deal with the day to day. How soon did you join? Did you like sign up with the property management company? Like after how many houses?
Oh, after my first tenant at that $28,000 house.
Really?
I was like, I
Oh,
can't
wow.
do this because I mean, like exactly what you said. You can't scale if you're always you're investing your time into this demand, right?
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with houses, for you it's a business, and for you it's just a property. For the tenant, that's their home, So it was really important to me to get emotionally away from that. That helped a lot. And I was just like, okay, you're late. Like, that's fine. Just catch up in like another 5 days.
Right.
Another 5 days comes. Yeah. You know the drill.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question about the actual management company. How did you shop those guys around? Or did you like do a intense vetting, or like is there anything that you wanted out of these guys? Like, I mean, that's something that we don't usually kind of dive into. Like, how did you kind of land on a good management
So
group?
for me, the decision was really easy because nobody else would manage properties down there. So yeah, I called, and they're like, "Where's the property? Fair Park? No, yeah, we don't handle that. You know anybody else? No, you don't know anybody else." So I finally found Morrison Management, and I've been with them for ever since day one. Yeah, shout out to Morrison Management.
And you're still with them. That's
I'm still with them. I'm still with them.
So I mean, it says something about them, like that they're able to, do things correctly and like make sure you're getting paid on time and all that stuff. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, and not to badmouth them, they've been great. I'm still with my type A personality. I really use them more of like for admin. So they'll do all the paperwork, evictions, leases, all that stuff. And if it's like a repair that's like under $150, so the tenants will call them, of course.
Sure.
Hey, there's a leak under the sink. They'll send their guy out. And if it's $150 or around there, I'll just, okay, take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's anything a little bit more intensive, then I'm like, whoa, hold on. Let me send one of my guys out there to really assess what's going on. You'll hear horror stories about management companies in business to make money too, right? So they necessarily won't care how much the repair costs. They're not going to like nickel and dime or try to save every little penny for you.
Sure. No, that's fair. That's something I'm not struggling with, but like trying to figure out as well, because like I have a property management team that I know and trust, so I don't worry about them. But there's other teams that I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, is it really the cost? Like, what's going on? So it's a fine line because you want to disconnect yourself, but at the same time, you can't fully disconnect because you have to, keep your finger on the pulse, right? Like, see what's going on, know what things are supposed to cost, and when you get a bill, at least dispute it, right? Like, if you don't feel right about it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, a lot of what I'm taking away from the houses that I did, the rehab, is I know how long it should take to repair something, or how much it should cost to do drywall. You can't bullshit a bullshitter.
That's right. I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm curious, like, what's the plans for the next 1 to 3 to 5 years? Like, is it more of the same? Are you trying to get into different markets, or, different property types maybe? Because it seems like right now it's all single family homes, right?
Yeah. And in regards to real estate, we're, again, just looking for more passive stuff. I'm not flipping anymore at all. We're actually, one of my other business partners and I, Jerry, we bought like 15 or 16 lots in the Fair Park area. And so we're going to build from the ground up. We're just holding them right now as the values are going up. But as far as flipping goes, I'm done with flipping. After we build these, we're going to just continue to buy like single family homes wherever we can find a good deal. The next 2 years anyways, we're in the process of building a restaurant. And then we just launched the Tadow, the tech company. So I'm not as involved in real estate as I was before.
Sure.
But not to say that it's still always going to be there for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. Because that's one thing I like about real estate, because you could push the gas or you could let up on the gas as much as you want as far as your own involvement, right? Like with real estate, you have the ability to hire a property management company and just talk to one person and say, hey, is everything okay? All right, good. You could hire a CEO and say, hey, I want you to be my acquisition manager and start acquiring properties, and we have this much funds, and blah. Like, you have the ability to do all that stuff, and gives you the time freedom to be able to do all these things that you're doing, right? Like, it seems like you got a lot of plates spinning. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's my ADD for sure.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
again, it goes back to financial independence. I got my agency license as well. If you're a realtor, it's like a job. You got to be out there like hustling hard, right? But because of the rental properties, that passive income, you have a lot more time to be able to get into other businesses. Name another investment other than like a CD or something where you can just put money in and just be like, okay, I'm gonna be good.
Yeah, man, you're preaching to the choir, dude. Real estate's kind of like, once I figured it out, I was like, wow, there's nothing else like this. And I'm sure there's definitely other ways to make money. You could do the stock market, you could do all these different things, start different businesses. But like I said before, like the ability to crank it up or pull it back as you see fit. Like, hey, this is my personality and this is what I want to do, and I could implement that in my real estate business, right?
I mean, like passive, stock investors, they're still watching like C-SPAN or all these stock shows all day long. Like,
Right.
can't get away from the TV.
Yeah.
yeah, no, stocks are way too volatile. I mean, if anybody says anything wrong, or any big name says spouts off anything news wise, they can turn the market, right? Elon says one thing, boom, market goes the other way, right? So I mean, I think that's way too volatile. I mean, with real estate, at least the thing is, for a shift in the market, it's going to take time, right? If it's going to go down, it's going to take months at least to kind of go down, right? Or if it's going to go up, it's going to take months. So that transition is a little bit more, we can palette that a little bit better, right? So no, it's all good.
Everybody has been screaming for over a decade now, Texas is in a bubble. Texas is in a bubble. Where do you guys think we're at now? Like, since now the interest rates are a little bit higher, it's a little bit more of a buyer's market. Is that bubble going to pop?
I personally,
is there a bubble, and is it going to pop?
I don't think so. There may be a small bubble. We're not talking about '08 or anything like that. In my head, I think the prices are where they're going to stay. I mean, they may take a slight dip, but I don't see it like tanking or anything like that. If anything, I think what's probably going to happen is the commercial side's probably going to take a bigger hit than the residential. But as far as bubble goes, I think the bubble's going to happen on that commercial side. That's in my head. But other than that, I mean, the way inflation is and how costs have been driven up and money's been printed, the costs are here to stay. And I feel like everybody's coming to Texas for the cost of living, and they've driven the price up. Plus the economy, I don't think it's going to go down. It may take, like I said, a slight dip, but it's not. I don't see a bubble.
I agree with Sidhu. It's kind of like, even in '08, when you think about '08, the markets that got hit the most were like the Californias, the New Yorks, I think Vegas got hit pretty bad. Like Houston got hit, but I remember I bought my first house in '08. Like, we got married and we bought a house, and then everything went down. And I think we dropped like $20,000 in our value. So it wasn't like this major, like, oh, we lost 50% of our equity, like we're underwater. It was nothing like that for us personally. So I don't know how it was for the rest of the Houston market, but I felt like, generally speaking, prices didn't dip so much. The only thing different I'm seeing now is this influx of outside money coming into Texas. That's a little bit scary because it makes it tougher to be competitive when you're doing your pricing, like when you're trying to make purchases and stuff like that. But even then, like, I still feel like there's so much opportunity, like, to kind of like what you were saying, like being creative. Like, you figured out a way to, take 15 cents and make $1 out of it, right? And I feel like with our laws here and the ability to, it's very landlord friendly. You have the ability to make things happen for yourself here, as opposed to different cities. So I'm not too worried about it. I do agree with Sidhu with the whole commercial side. I would love to get a commercial property, but even when you're looking, like, I get to work from home, and there's hundreds of thousands of people that get to work from home, right? So I see the decline of like having office spaces and stuff like that. And it might turn into something else, right? Because people are creative and they figured out, like, hey, we're going to use this for something else. So I want to keep my finger on the pulse to know, like, oh, this looks like an opportunity. Let's dive in. But as far as the bubble, I'm not too worried about it. Like, I don't think anything's popping. I don't think there really is a bubble in Texas.
And I don't think in '08, that's the difference between '08 and now is '08 was really because of bad mortgages, right? They wrote a bunch of bad mortgages, right, and just gave money to whoever, and that was the underlying premise what tanked '08, right? So I don't see anything like that now because they're so strict on giving loans. I mean, you see, it takes the process to get a loan now is insane, right? So I think that it's a
combination of bad loans and then the economy tanked, right? So there was like so many layoffs. But my concern is, over the last, especially 5 years, where it's been such a seller's market where buyers have been going in and paying cash. So let's just say, to keep it simple, $100,000 house, the appraisal comes back and it's $100,000. the seller's like, I'll still want 120. Buyers are paying that extra $20,000, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that's false inflation. So my thing is, yeah, if the economy slows down and people start getting laid off, man, it's going to be even bigger than 2008, possibly.
Mhm.
Because now you got that extra $20,000 on top of the what the value actually should be.
That's
right?
true, but I feel like the market's going to level itself out because days on market's going to be a thing, right? Like it's going to be these houses are going to just sit there on the market for months on months on months. I've seen properties like I don't know why, but they're there for like 100 days. Like it's crazy to me, but it's because they have this feeling of like, no, I bought it for this much, and I'm not going to go under. I'm not going to go under, right? But there's going to be a breaking point, like with to what you were saying. If people lose their jobs, or if they have to move, or if they're like under the gun, they really have to sell. Like prices are going to drop. Like it's inevitable, you know.
And I think a lot of people, I think we're going to see a lot of that. If it's not already happening, I think a lot of people are going to lose a lot of equity.
Yeah, yeah. It's unfortunate, but it's also I hate saying it like this, but it's an opportunity, you know, like
Yeah.
when people like these are the times where people that have saved and kind of sat on the sidelines with a little bit of cash, they could say, all right, I see the price dropping, let me swoop in and to some extent you're helping them out, right? Instead of you going into foreclosure, let me just buy it for this price, right?
Yeah, you hit it right on the nose. So when I was in insurance, I did special lines, and we did motorcycle claims, and I would get one fatality a week.
Oh wow.
Like one fatality a week, and just like it really kind of mentally drains you.
Yeah.
But whenever you're actually talking to family, you're like, oh man, like do I want to talk to them? Whatever, blah blah blah. They're just going through this life changing, experience. But they were genuinely happy to hear from you because they needed the money.
Yeah.
So distress sales, it sounds very predatory, but like you said, those people need help, right?
Yeah.
They need a way out. Yeah.
Yeah, they need a way out. So you got to really kind of go into it thinking, yeah, I am helping somebody out, and have that kind of good energy rather than, oh, hey, I have an opportunity to take advantage of somebody.
Right. I say it's an opportunity because it is an opportunity, but it's not an opportunity to be a bad person. It's an opportunity to just like assess the situation and say, hey, I know you need to exit. Let's figure out a deal where we could work together. And that way you could walk away without a big cut in your pocket, right? Like, you're still getting some money in your pocket and I still get a good deal. Like there's so many scenarios where there's a win-win-win, right? There doesn't have to be a loser in this, right?
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a firm believer of everybody on the table needs to be happy.
Sure.
Yeah. And going back to the market, I mean, we can't, the other thing with real estate is, listen, if you're getting into the game and worried about dips and downs, I mean, the market's going to go down and up anyway. If you look at the overall trajectory, right, let's just say it does take a dip, right? I mean, you get good deals, right? If you're trying to get into off the sidelines and get into the game, and then hopefully when it does pick back up, then you're up on the upside again, right? So in my eyes, I mean, you can't predict the future, but the money sitting in the bank is not doing you any good either. It's got to work for you. So me getting a nickel off of my 50,000 that's sitting in the bank account is, it's not worth it for me. So
seriously, like to the same point where I was saying, like we bought a house in 08 and it dropped in value like 20,000. It didn't affect me negatively because we weren't moving. We didn't sell the house, right? And so actually I benefited because now my tax basis was lower too, right? Yeah. And so I still have this house to that day, right? I mean, to this day, I still own that property and it's increased in value. So like time is your best friend in the real estate world, in my opinion, right? As long as you can ride the wave and you're not in a rush to sell a property, you can't really get too hurt, Things could always happen, right?
So yeah, no, absolutely right. I think the bigger thing is you got to have a plan, right? Like, going into it, everybody's like, oh yeah, like real estate, I'm going to make money. It's not always the case. If you really kind of think about it, real estate, it can be a pretty bad investment because a lot of people are like, hey, I'm going to buy this property and it's going to go up. It may not go up because the first 5 years, what are you paying? You're paying interest on the mortgage. You're paying taxes. You're paying insurance. So if you sell it and make a $8,000 profit, you're still losing money.
Right.
Because a lot of people, they don't calculate like how much you spent, like just to nothing, to the bank.
You're right. It's also, investment. Like, yeah, I mean, real estate's not for everybody, right? Like if you're 65, 70, which I'm not saying you can't invest it at 65, 70, but if you're looking for a short win, that may not be the right avenue, right? But if you have a little bit more of a runway to build, 10 to 15 years of hold time, then yeah, obviously you can make some money on the end of that, right? Hopefully some equity out of it and some appreciation. But yeah, I think everybody has to assess their own. It's the same thing. If you don't have money to put to a down payment, then real estate may be tough for you to kind of break into. Not to say that you can't, because you're obviously a story that that made it work without the down payment, right? It's about knowing yourself, knowing what you can handle, and knowing how you can get into the project, as well as how can you ultimately succeed out of it, right? Like whatever your plan is. And if you don't have that in place, like for instance, you can take the credit card debt, but if you don't know what happens after that year introductory 0% is done,
Yeah,
dude, you're gonna get railed with a 40%, 30% interest rate now,
right.
Right, that's right. There goes all your cash flow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like you have to be smart, right? Like, I mean, all of it is, I think, boils down ultimately to the numbers, right? And if the numbers don't work out, real estate can be a fail. Absolutely. And I'll be the first to say that on here. So it's just, you have to run the numbers, and the importance of that, I can't stress enough, right? And you have to be able to tolerate that. Otherwise it can be stressful. You're just, you're completely stressing yourself out.
On that note, if you had to start all over, like, would you change anything? Like, what would you do if you were talking to a version of yourself that's just starting out? What type of advice would you give them?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, it's it's hard to say, because here I'm sitting here, right? Like I am comfortable, so I feel like the younger me definitely made the right decisions. Just be more patient, really, right? Just be more patient, and don't be afraid to fail, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to lose money and this and that, blah, blah, blah. You spend a lot of money going to college, and you go out and get a $35,000 job. That's probably not a really good investment, right? So if you lose a little bit of money in investing, real estate, whatever it may be, take it as experience, take it as education, right? So I would definitely tell myself that, looking back.
I love the don't be afraid to fail. That's one of the mottos I live by now, right? Not when I was 20. I probably should have, right? And because if you don't fail, you don't learn, right?
Right.
And if you got to make those mistakes, I think the mistakes, those lumps you earn, right? Like that makes you stronger down the line. So I love that, man. That's key for, I think, a lot of people in a lot of industries.
And it's just a matter of like, hey, it's only a mistake and it's only a fail, it's only a loss if you don't take anything away from it. Like, why did it fail? Why did you lose money? Where did you lose money? If you can figure that out, then the next one is going to be so much better, and you're setting yourself up for success.
Right.
Absolutely.
Education, just educating yourself.
Absolutely, man. Vo, thank you again. I know we're kind of wrapping down to the end of the interview. Appreciate your time. How can people, I know you got a couple of projects, if you want to, spitfire that now and give people on how they can connect with you and some of your projects you're working on, feel free to, and we'll put it in the show notes as well.
Oh, I appreciate that. So if you're in the Dallas area, Google best food truck in Dallas. It'll be Tacos, Bites, and Beats. Go check us out on Irving Boulevard. We have a taqueria. Business partner Jorge, shout out Jorge Castellanos, my man. Dude, best tacos in Dallas, hands down. I'll put them up against anything. Trying to open up a restaurant in the Cedars called Dulce Nina. Dulce is Jorge's wife's name, and Nina is my wife's name. So we're naming the restaurant after our wives. Check that out, hopefully fall of 23. And then Tadow, if you need a DJ, you can get one virtually. I can actually DJ anywhere in the world just from here using our platform. But yeah, man, if it wasn't for real estate, I wouldn't be able to do all that.
That is so cool, man. I love that you're staying busy, because like some people would just be like, let me just ride into the sunset. I got my real estate money. It's kind of, I feel like it's good to stay busy and try new things, explore new things. So that's food truck, a restaurant, to now like a tech, I would call it a tech company. I know it's a DJ, but
Absolutely.
It's a tech company. And then real estate as well. Like that's huge, man. And it's awesome to, keep it busy. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm like, what other industry need to add to my portfolio too?
I mean, you've knocked off like the biggest ones, man. You have
exactly.
real estate and the food industry, So
yeah,
I don't always drink Dos Equis, but when I do.
No, man, that shows the drive that you've had and the passion you have for what you do. And thanks again for sharing your story. Again, welcome back anytime, and appreciate the time. For those of you guys listening out there,
hats off to you guys for taking the time out of your busy lives to do a podcast, because there's a lot of time and dedication involved into trying to help other people. And a lot of people don't recognize that this is helping them, right? Sure. Even though I love looking at y'all's beautiful faces, you know, a lot of times you're like, oh, fuck, I got to look at a podcast. No, man, like, hats off to you guys for doing this. And I appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks for those words, man. Like, I say this a lot, but like, I feel like the generation before us got rich quietly, you know, and that's fine. Like, it's okay to get rich quietly, but I feel like there's enough to go around. And like, if we could just share our knowledge, like Siju and I aren't pretending to know it all. Like, you know, we don't have all the answers, but we have a little bit. Like, we have a little bit of knowledge that we just wanted to share. And then we know that we have people in our community that we could reach out to and say, hey, share a little bit more, give us a little bit of your story, because I know I've benefited a lot from that. So I appreciate you acknowledging that, man. That's awesome. Thank you.
And I mean, you know, again, a lot of people have made a lot of mistakes and lost a lot of time and money doing it. So if we're able to help other people not make the same mistakes, that's where it's really at, man. You hit it right on the nose. Our parents made their money real quietly because they had the stigma of bad luck or whatever it may be, right? But yeah, I think there's a lot of value in sending positive energy out there in the world and receiving it.
Absolutely. Nice. With that said, well, thank you again. And for those of you guys listening, you know, like us, follow us, subscribe to some of the things that Bo's working on. And we will see you in the next episode. Thanks, guys.
Wait, at Tadow.live, Instagram, follow us.
All right. Awesome, man. Good plug.
All right, brothers. Thanks, guys.
Later.
Thanks for listening to Guts and Grind with Siju and Sajin. Be sure to tune in next time.